Hi, this is John Messina, Athletic Director at St. Lucie West Centennial High School and home of the show, Hey Coach. I have two good friends of mine here today, two athletic directors from different counties, and we're going to talk about the state of high school athletics. First of all, I got Kenny Buckner from Okeechobee High School.
Hi, John.
How you doing? And Mark Cowles from Martin County High School.
Always good to spend time with you, Coach.
Thank you very much. Now, the first question I always ask is, how do you think we got the name of the show, Hey Coach?
Might be because you used to be a coach.
Okay.
How about that?
You didn't win the free trip. Mark?
Golly.
Well, I don't know. I was going to say I have some firsthand knowledge because you're the one that actually got me into high school athletics in the state of Florida when I started coaching the freshman baseball team at Port St. Lucie. So I would have gone with Kenny because you're the coach.
Well, it came from Tony Melizia, our good buddy, and I. We used to go to the FACA coaches meetings, and we used to let everybody go in the doors. Everybody sitting down, and we sit in the back and go, "Hey, Coach!" And everybody used to turn around, you know. So that's where we got the name from. But I'd like to welcome you guys. I know there's a lot of topics. The FHSAA has been in the news. Some is good, some is not so good, and we need to discuss this and give it out to the public there. But first, we're going to start with you, Kenny. Give me a little background on how you got into athletics and how you became the athletic director at Okeechobee High School.
I've always wanted to be in athletics since I was a freshman in high school. I always wanted to be a coach because I looked at these guys as role models. And then on top of that, I'm thinking, you know what? These guys, they get summers off. They got Christmas break, spring break. And I thought, you know, that's a pretty good thing to do. So I've always wanted to do it since I was 14 years old. This is my 31st year, and I've always wanted to coach and be an athletic director. So this is my 11th year of being an athletic director, 6th at Okeechobee. So but that's how it started with me, and of course my family, my brother, sisters, they were all very athletic people too. So we've always been in athletics.
Mark?
Yeah, just athletics going back to Little League days and just having seen the impact that athletics had on family and friends throughout the years, just the love of almost all sports. Came to Florida in '93, got involved at the high school level, started coaching in '95, coached various sports for about 14 years. Then I got into the athletic department at athletic director role at Port St. Lucie High School, and then the athletic director position opened up at Martin County High School. I lived in Martin County for several years, and it was the right move at the time.
Tell me a little bit about the athletics at Okeechobee High School.
We've got 19 varsity sports, and we have about 15 JV sports, a couple of freshman sports. I know some of ours, y'all have lacrosse over here. Some schools, we don't have lacrosse. That's something that I really don't want to get into myself just because of our demographics, basically. Our kids are more rodeo or type kids during that time of the year, so they would rather do that. But we basically play the same major sports as everybody else, and our biggest difference between us and everybody else is we're the only school in town, and we get what we get.
Mark?
Yeah, it's when I accepted the role at Martin County High School, and somebody asked a question, how are the athletics there? And it's really is. I feel like somebody gave me the keys to a Ferrari and said drive fast. Because we have such a great community and such a great district that supports sports that it really is about just looking for little ways to tweak and improve. I can't say enough about our student athletes and coaches. They just do a great job. Fall, winter, spring, and we're currently at 24 varsity sports.
And your most prominent alumni?
Our most prominent alumni? Well, where could we go? I mean,
my boss, Andrea Popwell. I got to throw that in. I got to throw my boss in there.
World of celebrity there. I think Judge Reinhold at one point. But
Now we're going to get into a few little controversial topics. Where do you guys see the state of high school athletics here in Florida? Where do you see it, Kenny?
Really and truly, I think we're, in one respect, I think we're in really good shape. The kids are becoming bigger, faster, and stronger, and it looks like, to me, better athletes. But then on the other hand, I think we're struggling a little bit just because of politics trying to get involved. Everybody's trying to get, their son or their daughter is going to be a professional athlete. That's not totally true. Less than 1% is ever going to make it to the big show. So,
or even the college, 1%.
Well, even college too.
1%,
Especially everybody wants to be a Division I player, and we've run into that since I've been in Okeechobee. A lot of our parents will come out and they think their son or daughter is supposed to go to Florida State, or Miami. Well, that's not necessarily going to happen. They can probably go to the next level and play, but they got to be a little bit realistic that they're not always going to go to the big school.
One of the things that I see, Mark, and I'm a little bit disappointed in, is that student athletes are specializing just in one sport. I know I'm on the FHSAA All-Academic Committee, and I've been on this for 20 years. And we used to get 600-700 nominations. Now we're down to 200-300. And I ask everybody up there, why aren't we getting these nominations? It's not for the GPA, it's that people are not playing 2 and 3 sports for 4 years anymore. Why do you think that is?
It touches a little bit on what Kenny was talking about, is everybody is so focused on that scholarship and that next level that they think if they focus on one sport, that's going to increase their chance in that sport. So I think a lot of that goes to, the specialization, going to that chasing of the scholarship, chasing of the money. You're talking about baseball especially, where we're getting drafted and things like that. And, we preach multiple sports. They just came out with the NFL draft not too long ago, and how many of those players were 2-sport or more athletes in high school? And I'd have to look the numbers up again, but I'm comfortable enough saying it was at least 80% of those that were drafted played multiple sports.
But that's never publicized the way it should be.
Not enough,
It's not publicized the way it should be. And I think, the big money, you were at Port St. Lucie when Rick Ankiel was drafted, one of my players, and the money that was thrown around, it's it just blows people's minds away. And I think I had 2 of our baseball coaches, Johnny Roden from PSL and Vic Garcia from my school, on a show in December. And one of the things that we talked about is the amount of injuries we have now, and that's because student athletes are just playing one sport.
Just specializing. And go back to what Mark said too with the draft. They said most, and like you said, we'd have to look it up the number wise, but most of the kids drafted, or the young men drafted there, were 2-sport athletes or more in high school. And more of your 2-sport athletes are going on to college because they're not burning themselves out in that one sport during high school, or playing travel ball, and then they're done. My son, for instance, he decided he's just going to play baseball, and basically burned himself out by the time he's a senior, and basically hung it up. And it kind of upset me. But
now, your school, Mark, probably more than anybody, is involved in different travel leagues and other leagues like that. Do you think that, not in a way, but has a little bit of a negative impact on the high school sports?
Well, what has happened is, with the importance of travel teams and the promises that are made by coaches, and let's be honest, in some of the sports like a volleyball and softball, a lot less scouts are coming to the gym or to the field. They're heading over to the travel ball tournaments and those things. So it has become more important, where, as, not to date myself, but when I was growing up, summertime was when you played fun, when you're friends, and you got to put together some teams with one another. It's almost like been role reversal now, where the high school team is becoming the one that we're going to do for fun, and if we're playing the sport for serious intent, that's the travel ball team right now. And again, that specialization, you're not using. It's different muscle use with the different sports. And to touch on the injury thing, is you're talking about it. You're using different muscles in football than you are in basketball and baseball. And it's sad to see the days of the 3-sport athlete kind of fading away.
Well, you always hear in baseball the Tommy John injury, and when I was coaching down at Miami Pace, I got to know the real Tommy John, who was a great ball player, should be in the Hall of Fame. Played for the Yankees and the Dodgers. And he was coaching at Westminster Academy in Fort Lauderdale, and we got pretty close. And this is going back 20 years or so, and we were talking about injuries then, and he kept saying, John, get your kids to play other sports, swim, run, throw a football. But again, like you said, we're using the same muscles,
Yeah, need a break.
And But Kenny, that's a great point. It's so simple. They need a break. They're getting burnt out, you know? And I wish there was some way that we can convey it. Now we do have a problem with our FHSAA schedule because we overlap. You want to go through that a little bit, Ken?
Well, I just go back to when I was in school. I remember when we would finish with football, because I played 3 sports, and when football was over with, we had maybe a week that we didn't have to do anything. Then we could fall into basketball.
Right.
And then when basketball was over, we'd have about a week, and we'd go into baseball. You know, whereas now, you're not even done with football, and I got my soccer coaches driving me crazy. They want to have a home soccer match. You can't play at home soccer because we still have home football games. We're not putting lines everywhere. And, you know, last year it worked out for because our last 3 games were away. This coming season, our last 2 games are at home, so they're going to have to play away the first couple of weeks. But, yeah, it's tough. And then trying to get kids to go from sport to sport, you know, they feel like, well, I'm still doing football, so they're not going to let me play soccer or another sport, so they don't go out.
Well, they feel torn.
Yeah.
You know, they're finishing up, you know, the example of football and basketball, they're finishing up football. Meanwhile, they got an eye on, am I going to lose my spot on the basketball team? Because we're 2 weeks in, and if we're fortunate enough to have a postseason run, you know, you're going longer and longer and longer. So, you know, the kids end up torn. And I think that also has a little bit to do with, you know, maybe not even specialization, but a kid choosing one sport over the other.
Now, one of the possible solutions to that is to shorten our schedule. Is that a possibility?
Well, I think you could. You know, it's. I think you could shorten, but then you could also start. The spring sports could start a little bit later. I know it runs into everything, but here's they always talk about May is so crowded with everything, but it's going to always be crowded.
May's going to be crowded if you're winning.
Yeah.
If you're winning, if you're playing in the playoffs, like the baseball players are the last thing. And I think the final games of the baseball players in Fort Myers
are tonight.
Is going tonight.
Yeah.
And it's still late because graduation and the end of the year has been moved early. You remember when we used to get out middle of June?
Yeah.
So now we're being squashed in. I know who really kind of gets the bad deal is soccer, because they're playing over Thanksgiving break, they're playing over Christmas break, they're playing over semester exams. And I know I was working on the schedule today. It's really hard to put a soccer schedule together. You know,
I think wrestling is the worst.
Wrestling and
because they got Thanksgiving break, then they got Christmas break, and then they come back.
That's true.
You know, and it's hard to get the kids to keep their weight.
Yeah.
You know, in some of the states, I'm familiar with one at least, is my wife's from Iowa.
Yeah.
I know in Iowa, the sports like softball and baseball actually extend into the summer. So they're playing after graduation sometimes. Now, I don't know how you're going to sell a coach on that, you know, that has the summer off. But, you know, that's also one of the things. And we're not talking about going into July.
Right.
Maybe extending it a little
I know.
bit.
Now, New Jersey has done that also, you know. And it's just something, you know, we play 22 games in our county. I think you guys play 25, if I'm not mistaken.
25.
You know, I remember years when I first started, it was 30, and then before that, it was unlimited.
Yeah.
But it seems like now we have more problems. I know we have more sports now, but it seems like now we have more problems in the overlapping. I think one of the things, now that I think of it, is that years ago, only one team went out of the district, which I kind of wish we went back to that, you know. You know, a lot of times you have a 3 and a 14 district and you have one team going. Well, you just win one game and you're in, you know. So I think the playoffs have been expanded that the playoffs could be 5-6 weeks, especially in football, right?
Yeah. I mean, football's 5 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if you look at like baseball and softball right now, the way they have the postseason, they could condense that a little bit. I think that's a little drawn out, so that could help some there.
Yeah.
You know, because basically in baseball, you have one good pitcher. You're in the Final Four.
Right.
You know?
I think you guys would have played at Martin County one game a week, you know, for regionals all the way until you get to state finals. And what are you going to do for the rest of the week?
We talked about when you came down to broadcast the game, you know, we've been rained out 2 days in a row, and we still had 4 days of rest between our games. And if we had one, it would have been another week.
Right.
So if you do have that dominant ace, you know, you're sitting pretty.
Yeah. I mean, I know I'm very opinionated when it comes to baseball, and I think what they're doing with the baseball tournament, and I will speak my mind at the end of the year, you know me, and it's not the best team, it's the best pitcher that's going through. You want to have somebody that's 2 or 3 pitchers, you know, going through on that. Another topic, and this is a kind of a tough one, and something that we really have to consider, is the different safety issues that we have to really go over with now. the heat acclimation, the concussion issue. We had a young man very tragically, and Michael Stutzky couldn't be here today, but I know he would talk about it in detail, very, very tragically, that, passed away during summer conditioning last year up at Sebastian. And we're trying our best to be aware of these things. But
yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. I actually had it happen to me in college back in the late 80s. We had, the very first day, we had the kids come in, went through the doctor, got a physical, nurses were there. We had to do a little conditioning test, and the kid, he went down. We got him in within 2 minutes of him going down to the doctors. They got him to the hospital. He died next morning. And that was in Arkansas. So, a little bit different heat than we have here. But, I think our coaches do a very, very good job. Because actually, I started helping coach football again this spring. And I went to practice the other day. School gets out at 2:10. So I get down to the field house, and I said, hey, what time's practice? I said, 3 o'clock. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. And I go out there at 3 o'clock, and next thing, we're not even doing anything till 4 o'clock. I'm like, what the crap? We're stretching, we're playing around, we're drinking water, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty good, because they're just taking their time and they're not rushing the kids and letting them. And we've got a new policy that, a coach always has 6 water bottles with him at all times.
That's great.
And a young man or woman or whatever, if they want water, they get water whenever they want. They don't even have to ask.
Right.
They can get it whenever they want. That way, I remember when I was in school, when I played, you didn't ask for water. If you asked for water, you definitely weren't going to get it. Things have changed.
Things have
I think
changed.
you were there with Bear Bryant, the junction board.
The junction board.
Mark?
Yeah, I think it's just making sure that we stay up on the research, and we are consistently and constantly educating our coaches, our student athletes, our parents, to look for signs that after practice, the kid might leave practice and everything is fine, and they get hydrated, then they get home. They need to be aware of the vital signs that they are looking for, and to make us aware, and to again, it's all about education.
And there's no more two-a-days, basically.
Right. Yep.
We cut that out. I know Coach Parker at our school is great on this. In the preseason conditioning in August, we start at 7 and we're done at 10, and that's it. And the JV will come in probably on another field at 8, and they're done at 10 also. So we're out of there by 10 o'clock every day, and it's so different. I know what you were saying. I remember the two-a-days. To date myself here, when I was in college, I was down at Biscayne. Well,
3 days in college.
I was down at Biscayne College when the Dolphins used to practice there, which is now St. Thomas University, and that was in the late 70s. And Coach Shula had 3-a-days, and I mean there was more. And these were not 2-hour practices. No. These were 3 hours. Run in, get something to eat, take a shower, back on the field. 3 more hours. And then at night he would do a walkthrough. Well, we're finding out all these things, and we're finding out all these injuries that the professional players have had. Concussions, I think we're doing a really good job, because you guys, myself, my coaches, and even the students are aware of. I know I talk to the kids. I know our coaches talk to the kids. You get hit in the head, you're out. There's no and if or buts. I mean, we're fortunate enough that we have a trainer at our games, and we have the paramedics at our games, and I think you guys have the same thing. And anytime there's a head injury, we just don't fool around with something like that,
The kids are actually getting good looking out for each other now.
That's
I can think of several
point.
times during the football season, basketball season, even our girls' soccer match this year. The girl, she tripped, she fell, she hit her head, and the girl's waving and says, get her out. And the girl's, no, I'm fine. And no, get her out.
You're right. And they're not arguing with you. It's not the macho thing to do anymore, to say, especially when it comes with a head injury. And I noticed what you said now, when we say somebody, hey, we got hit in the head, they're not arguing with us about going back in. So I think that's good. And I know we're trying to get up on the concussion awareness. I know that's one of the very good things that the state's doing. We're not all there yet. We don't know. I don't even think that the NFL knows. And it's not just football. I think people think it's just football. It could be any sport.
No, if you go back when they first did the concussion video for us to watch, there were more concussions in girls golf than there was in baseball.
Now
the first
explain
year.
that one, boy. You got to
Now,
explain that to me.
I'm just going off what they sent to us. I was kind of amazed myself, but they said there was more concussions in girls golf than there was in baseball.
So
I'm
there's
like,
a
wow.
girls golfer out there that I can beat somewhere, right?
Somewhere.
Somewhere I can beat them. All right. The next topic we're going to talk to, if, this is the end of May or middle of May, and if you've been reading the newspapers, you have seen that there is a proposed bill by the state legislature that can absolutely revamp high school sports as we know it. I can't explain in the time that we have what the ramifications are. We were very fortunate that about 15 of our athletic directors met with Senator Negron on Tuesday, and he was very cordial. He listened to what we had to say. Hopefully, it's step one. We're meeting with Representative Larry Lee next week, but maybe Kenny and Mark, you could explain what this bill is going through. I don't know if we can dissect it, but maybe you could just explain to everybody out there what's the proposed bill.
Well, the problem, some of the stuff they're proposing I agree with. Not everything is perfect. We know that. Things can always be changed. Right. My athletic program can always be changed. Right. Yours, Mark's, everybody's can always be tweaked somehow or another. But some of the major issues, I think, that I've thought about since Tuesday when we spoke to him, some of the things that they're really talking about, all they have to do is ask, and some of it's already been taken care of, or it has been taken care of in the past, or whatever. But they're trying to get Johnny's mom and dad involved too much because Johnny always, or their parents can always vote for them. And I think if they open this thing up, like I told him the other day in Okeechobee, we're in trouble. We'll never be able to compete because we're the only game in town.
Yeah, one of the rules was that if you can go to one school for academics and another school for athletics. And I think a lot of us agree that if you don't have the sport at that school, we don't mind you going to another school. It would be difficult, but now they want to make it just like a free agency system.
Yeah. If there's a student athlete at Martin County High School that isn't happy at Martin County, we will advocate for them and tell them ways that that they can get to another school. But we always talk about academics first. You're unhappy athletically. How about the academic side of things? Let's start there. And then, if it's an overall picture, we can talk about within our own district, South Fork or Jensen. We want to be able to meet every student and every student athlete's needs, and there's ways to do that. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and as Kenny said, the FHSA is not perfect. I think within the past 3 to 5 years, they've been more willing to listen. They're listening to the athletic directors and principals. But I think there's some misinformation about what really goes on in athletics, and our politicians need to know the truth.
And hopefully by our meetings with them, hopefully by shows like this, hopefully by newspaper articles, instead of making a drastic change, we can just tweak some of the things.
And again, it's like we talked about the other day with him. There's some very valid points about things that need to be changed, and we already know that. But all you got to do is let us know, that it's really a concern, then we can start pushing for it. I don't think they need to just revamp the whole thing. And I'm like Mark said, in the last 3 to 5 years, I think they've done a lot for everybody. Just homeschool students, for instance. Used to you had to get the paperwork, send it in, you had to wait 2, 3, 4 days.
Correct.
Now you get the paperwork, they give it to you, they're eligible.
And homeschool students have the same rights as everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. And putting it in the district's hands.
Yeah.
And we have several. Yeah, I have several homeschool students right now that play for us, and they go to the county office, they get it approved, you bring it to me, and they're good.
One big thing which I think they will make a mistake is they're trying to take away the age limit in high school. Now, Outside the Lines on ESPN had a special about this, okay? Some states have already taken away the age limit. All states have that if you start 9th grade, you got 4 years. So what are parents doing? They're keeping back their sons and daughters in middle school. And then this is what shocked me. It's not middle school. It's not 8th grade. It's kindergarten.
Yeah.
They're keeping them back in kindergarten, some 1 and 2 years. So now what I'm worried about is you're going to have a 20 or a 21-year-old football player going against a 14-year-old or a wrestler or a runner. But this is a nationwide crisis. So I do think now, excuse me, we have one of the youngest age limits at 19 now. And that might be too young, okay? But if they're going to hold their kids back, I mean, and we're not going to have an age limit, we're going to have, that's a big problem.
Well, you have, Danny Almonte in the Little League World Series,
Right.
A few years back, where I think he was 15 years old competing against 11 and 12-year-olds. You don't want that.
No, and that's, and I agree with the age limit, to a certain point, especially males. I think males shouldn't be able to get out of high school till they're at least 18 or even 19, just maturity-wise. Girls have always matured faster than the boys have. I wanted to hold my 2 boys back when they were in kindergarten, but they kept passing tests, and I'm like, man, that's going to hurt because y'all going to graduate when you're 17 or just turning 18. And that's, I think it's just too young.
But on the outside the line special, they were holding them back purely for athletic reasons. In fact, there was a coach there that just shocked me that he's the coach of where these kids are going to. And he's saying, yeah, keep them back. Of course you're going to keep them back. You'll have your whole team in 8th grade, and they're keeping them back 2 years.
Yeah, you'll have men playing with boys.
And that's a problem. So hopefully meeting with Senator Negron, getting these articles, meeting with Representative Larry Lee. I'm going to try to meet with some of the representatives down in Miami when I get down there. Hopefully we can kind of nip this in the bud, because every year at this time it seems to get worse and worse. And I'm really worried that one year it's just all going to go through, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, it's starting to snowball. I think they probably had a real legitimate point 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's just expanded into something that's just totally unrealistic. Could be personal vendetta. Who knows? But still, we have to have some kind of infrastructure.
Yes.
We have to for athletics. If not, it'd be total chaos. Yeah. Like this week at the state baseball tournament, who would be in charge? Who'd be doing anything? Or last week at state softball, who would be doing anything?
You'd have your own tournaments.
And I don't think they would have a state championship anymore. I think it would just be the schools playing, and just anybody could go.
It's something that we got to decide in the future. I think we're on the front lines, as my good buddy Tim Thorpe mentioned the other day. We're the ones that are on the front lines, and hopefully that all of us working together. But the one thing that I could say is I am so proud of being an athletic director in this area and seeing everybody come together. When I want to play you, I want to win. When I want to play you, I want to win. But something like this, we're all working together. Yeah. And on that note, our time has gone by real quick, and I told you how quick this was going to go. So I'd like to thank everybody, Kenny, Mark, for coming today.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
I know I'll have you guys back again, and thanks everybody for watching another edition of Hey Coach.